Hello everyone, this is your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black the one and only, here with another exciting video. And in this video, I'm confused. So in case you guys didn't know, real quick before I jump into this video, let me close out my Discord tab. My Discord is quite active, and I don't want it to keep like chiming during the video. Anyways, Spells of Magic. In case you guys don't know what Spells of Magic is, it is like the world's premier internet search engine for magic spells. This thing has been around since I've been around. It came out like the same year I was born, 1997. And back in the day, before stuff like Yahoo and Google were out, you had to use indexing in order to find web pages on the internet. And essentially, Spells of Magic came into existence because using indexing, you couldn't find any websites that had to do with magic or spells. At first, the website was created just for fun, where the guy who made the website would just make up spells and post it on the site. But eventually, it became like a social media platform where people who believe in and practice magic could post their own spells up for other people to use. So it essentially became like a community online spell book. I remember seeing this website when I was younger and I was really interested in trying to find real life superpowers. But even as a kid, I was like, this looks really fake. And I just didn't really mess with it that much. Now that I'm older, I'm like, this is like a cool idea. Let me look at it. And it's interesting to see that there's like a community that will rate and review spells. You know how there are a lot of videos on YouTube where people will look at Amazon reviews that are like kind of funny or goofy? Imagine that same kind of thing, but for magic spells, where people are trying to say whether or not like a magic spell is real or actually works kind of thing. So that's what I've been doing. I've been looking at these like reviews and seeing different spells that are rated like 1 out of 5 stars or 5 out of 5 stars and pretty much nothing in between. I never see someone rate a spell like 3 out of 5 stars. They either are like it doesn't work or it works and it's super good. And this is an example of a spell that's rated 5 out of 5 stars called Summon a Goo. Now, when I read Summon a Goo, I was like, oh, this is probably like a slime or something. Like you probably would use this to create like a slime similar to what you'd see in like a RPG game. I'm like, slimes are kind of cool. Let's see what materials you need in order to like summon a goo. So I look at the materials and it's like a dark room, concentration, and your voice. So I'm like, oh, maybe I could do a video because I never have fucking lights on. Maybe I could do a video where I try to like summon a goo. But for one, you have to get rid of like all sources of light, which would imply that if I did do a video of this, I would have to sit in complete darkness. So you wouldn't be able to see anything. So I don't really see the point of doing a video on it. And two, once I learned what a goo was, I was like, nah, that ain't me. I don't want to summon a goo. That's horrible. So real quick, let's talk about what summon a goo does. Summon a goo summons inside your belly a goo creature that grows with time, slowly giving you a pregnant or fat looking baby, not looking baby, sorry, a pregnant or fat looking belly. So you're telling me that summoning a goo puts a creature inside your belly that makes you look pregnant, but you're not pregnant. Why do you want that? Who wants that? Who's out here like, you know what? I want to look pregnant. I gotta summon a goo. What does the creature do? What does the creature look like? Does it ever leave your body? What does it do inside your belly? I don't know. Who made this spell? Who's this person? Barry Fox. Barry Fox has been a member of Spells of Magic for 4 years, since October 17th, 2016. So congratulations, Barry Fox. We're doing a video on your spell, your really weird spell that you made a few years ago. And it's a 5 out of 5 star spell. People seem to really like this. So let's look at the instructions you gotta follow for, summoning a goo. First of all, prepare the room for the summoning. Simply block all outside forms of light, close the windows, turn off the lights, etc. We're not going to do that because that would involve me cutting off my laptop, which is providing the light source for this video. Let's see. Then sit down in roughly the middle of the room and chant 3 times. It's interesting that where you sit in the room matters. I don't, what does that do? Like, what does that have to do with the magic? I'm not in the middle of my room, which is good because I don't want to goo. So that's the preference right now. Now you gotta chant this 3 times. I'm just gonna say it once so you guys know what it says. But the spell is belly, belly, belly. Why is it so empty? Give me a creature inside to make my belly a prominent feature. That phrasing is so weird. A prominent feature? Because that is the point, I guess, to give you a big belly. But it's weird that the spell isn't like a be fat spell. It's not a spell that's designed to just make you fat. It's like you summon a magic creature inside your belly called a goo? And that's such a gross name. You got a goo in your belly. But, anyways, after 3 times of chanting this, the creature should be inside you. A way to tell if the spell worked is if you begin to feel very hungry a few hours after casting. Now, for one, I just want to say, what nigga doesn't feel hungry after a few hours? So I only eat once a day, right? So I normally don't really get hungry until like the next day, because that's when my belly goes like, hey, like you haven't eaten, it's been like a whole day. You gotta like get some sustenance or whatever. So I imagine I probably wouldn't feel hungry after a few hours. But most people who were eating like 3 times a day plus snacks or whatever, I know niggas who get hungry right after they eat. So I think the concept of saying like you'll know the spell works when that thing that happens all the time happens is kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing. But then they also say, or if your belly begins to bulge outwards on its own. Now that one actually does sound a little scary. It seems like the kind of thing where like before you cast the spell, you would like measure your like belly or like waist size or whatever, and then you would compare like a before and after. It's like those commercials where they try and like sell you on a diet plan, like Jenny Craig or something, but you switch the before and after pictures. So instead of it being like I used to be fat and now I'm like skinny or like tone or something, it's like I used to be skinny or tone and now I got a goo. Speaking of which, somebody do this. I would love to see this. Especially like Brian Gilbert. I feel like I'm butchering your name. I feel like everyone says all 3 parts of your name. I only remember 2. My apologies. If you guys don't know who he is, look him up. He's a cool YouTuber. I would love to see someone like him make infomercials for the spells on spellsofmagic.com. I just think that would be a cool idea. But anyways, um we haven't even really gotten to the crazy part yet. The crazy part is be warned, this spell is permanent. So you should give it some thought over whether you want this belly bulge forever. How would anyone have even learned that this was like a real spell? Like if it did work, right? What would who would have wanted it? Who would have learned that it was a thing and then said, you know what, the world needs to know that this is a thing, and like made this like possible? What happens when you die and you have like a goo in your belly? I still don't understand why it's called a goo. Um, I have so many questions. Do you get any benefit from the goo being in your belly other than it makes your belly distended? If you didn't eat any food, like if you starved yourself, would you eventually consume the goo? How does this work? And there's another warning. It says, warning, the creature the spell summons cannot be undone. Message me if you have any questions. They're like, this is a forever thing. Your goo will never go away. You know what's interesting about summon a goo? I feel like summon a goo, it makes sense if maybe the goo just didn't go to your belly. There are plenty of like people who will be like, I wish I had like a bigger butt or something, and they want to have that cake or whatever. You know, if you summoned a goo and it was in your butt, for one, that's kind of silly. Like I find myself grinning as I say it. But there are people who pay money, like money to get like plastic surgery to have like a big butt. I don't think people like go out of their way to say I want to have a belly. Also, it just seems like it'd be fairly easy and maybe even more enjoyable to just eat food to get a belly. Like if you want a belly, right? Just eat. Just eat. I don't know what do you do? Consume sustenance. belly. Why would you want to summon a goo? Can you talk to the goo? Can the goo talk? What is? I just don't understand anything. What if you throw up and you got the goo in you? Will you spit the goo out? Will you vomit up the goo? Does the goo move around? Does the goo kick in your belly? I don't understand what the goo is. It's not a baby. It's not like a manifest a baby spell. It's just a goo. But really weird setup. But yeah, that's like our quick foray into spells of magic. There's this one guy, Tadashi, on this website. All he does, for the most part, that I've seen, is he just goes to people's pages and just say it's not real. And I find that funny on a website where people are like sharing like magic spells. My boy's on almost every page just saying it's not real. So I'm not gonna read his comment because it's more or less just what he's saying. Nina, this person's name is Nina said. So Nina said, I tried it and I feel so hungry since a day and my belly looks bigger. Will it grow faster if I use the spell again? For one, Nina said, why the fuck did you do this? Why did you why are you summoning a goo? I just feel like you're making bad decisions. This and then I like how they're like, yo, I'm hungry as fuck and I'm fat. They're like, can I make it grow even more if I do it a second time? In which case I'd be like, how about you don't? What if you didn't do it twice? Also, one thing that's kind of interesting about like what she's saying, like if I did it a second time, would it grow faster? It sounds like if you did it a second time, you would just have a second goo inside of you. Like you'd be a two goo. And to be honest, I think one goo is too much. Like you just don't do it. You already messed up. You just casted a permanent spell that's already made you fat and hungry, which is what the spell tells you it'll do. Don't don't do it again. You'll just get fatter and hungrier, which will probably also just lead to you being fatter because you're hungrier or whatever. I don't think I've ever heard of a spell that gives you the munchies before. Next up, Nina said after Tadashi pretty much said the spell's fake. That's all Tadashi ever says. Nina said, if this spell isn't real, then how is it possible that I gained about a 35 centimeter waist circumference in just 2 days without eating much? Well, to be honest, if you're talking about like fat from like amount of food, maybe you're just looking at the wrong things to compare. Do 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 do. Like if you don't eat a lot of food, um, that can for one actually lead to you having like a distended belly anyways. There are plenty of people who starve but have a distended belly. It's like a consequence of you not eating a lot of food. I've noticed sometimes if I don't eat a lot, then my body will try to fill the empty space in my stomach with gas. So you could just be experiencing bloating from not eating a lot. Also, what is not eating much? Like when you say that you're not eating much. I don't know what you normally eat. I don't know what your diet is. As someone who eats only once a day, it's not hard for me to imagine people who eat more than once a day or eat like a ton of food at once, kind of thing. So it's, I don't know. That's like a very relative thing. Like if the spell isn't real, how's it possible that my waist got bigger after not eating a lot of food? If you normally eat like the whole McDonald's menu, but now you're eating like half the McDonald's menu, that's still just a lot of food relative to the average rate. So I don't know what you're eating, Nina. I can't comment on your thing. You'd have to be like more specific. Anonymous 2 was like, yo, do you have an update? They're like, I want to know what happened. Like, just hit me up. And then Moon Fury says something similar to Dadashi, where they're like, it's the placebo effect, which I think is fair. It does sound like it probably is like a placebo thing, where after you read the spell, you're probably paying more attention to like your belly or whatever. I will say that when Nina mentions the like, they gained 35 centimeter, excuse me, waist circumference or whatever, it's cool that there's like some kind of measurement there. Like I do think it would be nice if a lot of these spells had comments where someone's like, "Hey, I did it, and then here's how I changed over time." Imagine if this log had like 2 years of Nina said just documenting the goo in her belly or something. That'd be like kind of interesting to read through, not gonna lie. And then Nana Drop 2 said, can the spell be used elsewhere? Like, they're like, do I have to be in a dark room or can I just use it somewhere else? But yeah, I had a lot of fun looking at the spell. Let me know if you guys want me to look at more magic spells, because I think this is like a crazy website that for some reason I never really see anyone talk about. Anyways, thank you all for watching. This is your host, your friend, your boy, Jim Like the One Only. Log it out. Peace, guys.